see everyone. The class is from Jayananda, so in the spirit of every single Jayananda class that I ever heard started by reciting a mantra for Jayananda and Jayananda and the associates, so I'm gonna follow that tradition. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So let's move on to the verse at hand. So we are going to take a look at verse number 222. The purport in that one is really short, so I will after that read a couple of other verses as well. Let's try to recite this. It's actually doable. Nirka. Nirgrantha hana ihan api nirdharane Ramascha Krishnascha yatha viharayevane. Nirgrantha hana ihan api nirdharane Ramascha Krishnascha yatha viharayevane. So someone else wants to try?
Nirgranta hana ihan api nirtarane.
Nirgrantha hana ihan api nirdharane
Ramascha Krishnascha yata viharayevane.
Ramascha Krishnascha yatha viharayevane.
Nirgranta hana ihan api nirtarane. Nirgranta hana ihan api nirtarane. Ramascha Krishnascha yata viharayevane.
Ramascha Krishnascha yatha viharayevane. Ladies?
Nirgrantharadhana ihanapi nirtarane.
Nirgrantahana ihan api nirdharane.
Ramascha Krishnascha yata virayane.
Ramascha Krishnascha yatha viharayevane. Nirgrantahana.
Nirgrantahana.
Being liberated saintly persons.
Being liberated saintly persons.
Ihan.
Ihan.
Here.
Here.
Api.
Api.
The word api.
The word api.
Nirdharane.
Nirtarane.
In the sense of certainty.
In the
In the
sense
sense
of
of
certainty.
certainty.
Rama cha Krishna cha.
Rama cha Krishna cha.
Both Rama and Krishna.
Both Rama and Krishna.
Yatha.
Yatha.
As.
As.
Viharaye.
Viharaye.
Enjoy walking.
Enjoy walking.
Vane.
Vane.
In the forest.
In the forest.
Translation. The word nirgranthaha can be used as an adjective and api can be used in the sense of certainty. For instance, Ramascha, Krishnascha means that both Rama and Krishna enjoy walking in the forest. Purport. Because it is said that both Rama and Krishna enjoy wandering in the forest, it is understood that both of them are enjoying their tour within the forest. So, few more verses. 223. Cha shabde anvachayartakaya bhagaviksham matagam chanaya yaiche prakara. The word sha can also present a secondary thing to be done at the same time. This way of understanding the word sha is called anvachaye. An example is, "Oh Brahmachari, go out to collect alms and at the same time bring in the cows." 224. Krishna manane muni Krishna sarvada bhaja atma rama bhaja gauna arthakaya. Saintly persons who are always meditating upon Krishna are engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. The Atma Ramas are also engaged in the Lord's service. That is the indirect import. Purport. The Anvachaye meaning of the word cha indicates that between the two words compounded by the word cha, one is given more importance and the other is considered subordinate. For example, "Oh Brahmachari, please go out and collect alms and at the same time bring in the cows." Any Brahmacharis around? Okay, so
You went to get the cow.
so in this statement, the collection of alms is of the first importance, and the second business of collecting the cows is subordinate. Similarly, one who always meditates upon Krishna is mainly a devotee of Krishna engaged in his devotional service. Other Atma Ramas are subordinate in devotional service. So, Om Avyanatimmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay. Let's contextualize what is going on here. Just in case somebody hasn't been reading the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita lately. Just speaking about myself. It's a thick book like these ones with the commentaries, and it's been a while. I've read it a number of times though. So context is here that there's particular verse in Bhagavata Purana which is kind of a groundbreaking verse because it's saying Atma Ramas, people who are enjoying satisfaction in the self, the liberated personalities, even those persons become attracted to the wonderful service without any selfish motive to Urukrama, the person who performs wonderful deeds and who takes also in the form of Vamanadeva or Trivikrama 3 huge steps to conquer the whole universe. So the point being that Bhakti to the Supreme Person is so wonderful that it can even attract the minds of those who are already on the liberated platform. So what was going on? I mean, this text is narrating events that took place in the 16th century. So the context, historical context is that when we consider the whole corpus of Vedic literature, the 4 Vedas, Upanishads, Pancharatra, Itihasa, Purana, so in all of that one feature stands out so much that actually in my work on the academic study of religion, I sometimes wonder, how is it possible that the scholars miss this? Meaning, on every page there's devotion, there's bhakti, worship of this devata or that devata, or the supreme being, you know, whether called with the name Vishnu or Shiva, these are the two major candidates. But anyway, either worship to divine beings who are populating the universe or the supreme transcendental God who is beyond the universe. But that's kind of coming across all the time on every page. So, you know, there's this saying, elephant in the room, because there's a small room and a big elephant, and the elephant is so big that you kind of don't pay attention to it because it's everywhere, it fills the whole room. So, elephant in the room of the Vedic tradition, from academic study point of view, I would say definitely is Bhakti. It's sometimes so much everywhere that then the scholars are paying attention to everything else and oh yeah, Bhakti is also there. It's not also there, it's there everywhere, and you actually have to work hard to kind of find corners where it's not at all there. We can find those corners, like for instance there's a text called Sankhya Karika, which is giving a non-theistic, it's not atheistic, it's just not talking about God at all, that particular text. It consists of less than 100 verses and it's mainly analyzing about how the material nature works, like the different categories of Prakriti, the nature of Purusha, how to achieve liberation by disconnecting from the Prakriti. So, but anyway, so Bhakti is all pervading. So now at the same time, historically speaking, what we see taking place, there are many Upanishads that are kind of discussing the nature of the Absolute in impersonal terms. I mean, there are definitely Upanishads that are discussing the nature of the Absolute in personal terms as well. Both are there. So now then, historically, we see the rise of two great traditions. One is called Buddhism, the other one is Jainism. And when they come and emerge and become important traditions in the South Asian context, both of these traditions give less emphasis to worship of divine beings. It's not totally absent, but it's less important. Both of these traditions emphasize that the ultimate goal is to achieve knowledge of the self. Actually, in Buddhism there are formulations of non-self, but kind of transcending the world without explicitly formulating this is all about getting connected to a supreme divine personal being. So now these become big, and then on the Vedic side, because there are these two important, visible, influential traditions which are emphasizing that something other than Bhakti is important, then on the Vedic side there arises a need to explain the Vedic tradition from a similar point of view. And then we have two great teachers, Adi Shankara, approximately dated, the scholarly idea is that he lived approximately at the 800 Common Era. I think it's contestable when actually, but approximately, just creating a like academically acceptable timeline. And then after him, there's a great scholar and philosopher in Kashmiri Shaivism, that tradition, called Abhinavagupta. Now both of these persons are scriptural geniuses. They understand the scriptures forwards and backwards so well that when they present an argument, it becomes really convincing. And both of these great scholars present in different ways the view that the ultimate end is to get connected to the Absolute, who is ultimately impersonal. That said, because Bhakti is there everywhere, everyone is doing it, it's obviously a powerful spiritual practice, so we need to accommodate that somehow as well. We cannot claim that it doesn't exist. It exists, but it's placed in the subordinate position. For instance, in Shankara's system, Bhakti is being practiced until you come to the realization that you are identical with Brahman and you, me, everyone is kind of, there's only Brahman, that's the ultimate reality, and then Bhakti can be discarded. Now, this being the case, then after these two same time with Abhinavagupta a little later, then Ramanuja, the great South Asian scholar, then establishes, hey everyone, Bhakti is actually real, and Vishnu and Lakshmi are real, and it's possible to actually go to their world and interact with them forever. And then comes Madhva, who well known for establishing that actually the whole idea of oneness, that's subordinate. Distinctions are important, because Bhakti is about interaction between two persons. That's how we experience. I mean, even in this world, love is not really like I become one with you. I love you because there's a relationship. You are there, I'm here, and we can have a friendly relationship based on because you are there and I'm here, and there's an interaction. So because it's a real experience, so Madhva emphasizes that the distinction is the fundamentally important. So now we are coming to this verse and the context. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here, now we are in the 16th century, then famously establishes a reading of Vedanta which becomes later on after him known as Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva, which says both the impersonal conception of the Absolute and the personal conception of the Absolute are real. These are real experiences. The Absolute can actually manifest both the impersonal and personal side of himself. Like we can be impersonal if we want. Let's say somebody calls you, you don't know where the call comes from, and then starts the conversation. We have this very special offer just for you and just today. So you can subscribe to our magazine for a ridiculously low price, and it's all about the topic, and then the topic comes and you realize I'm not the least interested in these topics. Whatever it is, like let's say how to raise horses in the ecological fashion. I mean, if somebody, for me that would be, I don't know nothing about horses and I don't have any time to spend on that. For somebody else that might be the ultimate topic, but not for me. Somebody calls me and gives this like, only for 150 Swiss francs you can get, 5 unique presentations on this topic, and I said, yeah, I'm not really interested. So I can kind of act in that conversation in an impersonal way. Like, I'm not interested. Can we please stop the conversation? That's kind of being impolite maybe. Impersonal would actually be like even taking one step further. I'm not even like responding. I'm just, reading news when you are trying to talk to me. So anyway, but the personal interaction between two persons, when it's based on love, that's the most wonderful experience. But at the same time, impersonal realization of the Supreme is also possible. People have been doing that for thousands of years as see realizations. So this verse in Bhagavatam, then Atmaramascha Munayo, and so on, it is talking about how even those persons who have achieved an impersonal realization of the Absolute, note, that's a real realization, it's not illusory. But after achieving that, then if they come in contact with devotees, if they come in contact with texts such as Bhagavad Gita, they become attracted to Bhakti. That's the power of love. It's more powerful than even becoming liberated and achieving realization of oneself. So now the discussion here, what is going on, is between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami, and they are figuring out the nuances, all the various different ways of understanding this particular verse of Bhagavatam. And in the context of a very long discussion, now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that there is an alternative way of understanding the verse. Because there are two verses, Atma Rama, which means one who really sees the joy in the self, and Munayoho, referring to Muni, one who is a contemplative sage. So now he's giving a meaning here that actually we can say there's a general category of people who are relishing the self, And within that category, there's particular class of those who are relishing the joy of the self, who are called munis. This is an alternative explanation of this verse. And explanation here is that the munis, let's read what it says. Munis who are always meditating upon Krishna. Those are special category of Atmaramas, those who relish the bliss of the self. So here, Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter, presents a section of different levels of spiritual realization or practice or engagement. And the list begins with the highest conception, most advanced. And then from there it's kind of going like one step down. If you cannot do that, then do this. And if you cannot do this, then you do the next thing. Somehow or other, find yourself on this ladder. On the highest platform is those who are always constantly thinking of Krishna all the time, without a fail. And those who cannot do that, then at least make it a point to practice remembering the Lord on a daily basis. Let's say spending maybe 15 minutes or 30 minutes chanting the names of the Lord, going to a kirtan, relishing prasadam, like that. And then from there, if you cannot do that, then maybe you can do something else. Maybe you can work for Krishna. Maybe you can do some seva in the temple. Maybe you can give a donation. Maybe you can do it at your home. You can do a puja maybe every day, or offer something like that. And then it kind of gradually then next level and next level. But this verse 12.8, I would like to read it to you. Now comes, it's well known. Mayeva manadhachva mayi buddhing niveshaya nivashishyasi mayeva ata urvam nasamshaya. Just fix your mind upon me and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. So this Bhagavad Gita verse has two words, manas and buddhi, and both of them should be engaged in thinking of Krishna. So how should one, what does it mean? So there are different ways to explain this, but buddhi is the capacity of our inner landscape which is responsible for understanding concepts and values and the big picture. Whereas manas is the quick mind, is the part of the mind that jumps here and there. It captures a sense impression, interprets what it is, and it gives an immediate response. Let's say there's a mouse. Can we imagine a mouse walking through the room? Okay. So now the analysis of manas, oh, there's something gray, recognize, oh, that's a mouse. Now if it's a cat who is looking, then the manas gives, oh, tasty, that's my breakfast. Whereas for somebody else, that's mouse, I don't like mice, so repulsion. You know, could be like all sorts of interpretation, but that's what manas does all the time. And because it's so quick, and because it so automatically and immediately responds to the information that's coming through the senses, it's very easy to try to focus on Krishna and then suddenly get distracted because manas just jumps somewhere else. So now, therefore, it's a formidable task to always fix the manas on the Supreme. But it's possible because it's relishable. It's a wonderful experience, but it takes some practice. So what is helpful in this project is to engage the buddhi, the higher understanding as well, such as studying the scriptures, hearing lectures, trying to understand, because that strengthens the buddhi. And then buddhi, when one is trying to connect to the Supreme by fixing the manas, then the buddhi is giving support, because now it has understanding, yeah, this is a really good idea. Whereas if buddhi is kind of confused and weak, then it's manas trying to connect to Krishna, and then buddhi is, I don't care, everything is important. This is one of those things. Buddhi needs to be convinced that this is the most important thing. So, like, that's why this verse, the Atmarama verse, is so important because it's establishing beyond the shadow of the doubt that the bhakti is the ultimate pure bhakti, not only something that you do on Sundays or something, but pure bhakti which doesn't end, which is kind of uninterrupted and unmotivated. It's done for its own sake, just because Krishna is so wonderful. I want to give my heart to him fully, 100%, not 98%, but 100%. That's the nature of bhakti, and this verse then establishes, like it's in Bhagavatam, and Bhagavatam is considered a natural commentary to Vedanta Sutra, whereas Vedanta Sutra is a commentary explaining how to understand the Upanishads, and Upanishads in their turn explain how to understand the Veda. So from Veda to Upanishads to Vedanta Sutra to Bhagavatam, then Bhagavatam explains the essence of it all, and then this particular verse explains that bhakti as an experience is so wonderful that it has the power to attract the minds of even of those people who are already relishing the bliss of the pure self, like that. So, I end here. Do you have any questions or comments related to this? Yes?
Just something I was thinking about then, and we want to do selfless devotional service, but we are part of Krishna, so in my mind is always the more that I do for Krishna, doesn't matter how hard the seva is and how difficult, but in one sense I also do it always for me, because I always getting more nourishment. I'm also a leaf on the tree, and so how can it be like fully selfless, because I always get benefit, although maybe also suffering, but I know this is also for my benefit, and so
these are relative terms. So we use the words like selflessness and without desires. Actually what is being done is pointing to material desires and material selfishness. There is such a thing as spiritual desires and spiritual selfishness, and these are the pure platform. I mean, pure selfishness is to realize that you are part of Krishna, and your duty is to fulfill the task of a part. Just like you have a wristwatch, or what is that? That's a wristwatch. So it's without opening that, I think we all could guess that it consists of tiny little particles which are interconnected somehow, and they create a mechanism and somehow it works. Now, I assume you can take a tiny little particle out of the watch, okay? And suddenly the particle here, it's the same particle, but now it has no value because it's not fulfilling its function as part of the watch. But when it gets connected as a part, then it's serving the greater whole. At the same time, it lies in its own interest because now it's in its proper place. So the tiny little particle feels good when it's in its proper place. At the same time, it's fulfilling the greater purpose. So it's like this spiritual selfishness means just to understand that there is such a thing as self of the self. So there's a deeper level of yourself than yourself. That's Krishna. Krishna is the ground, the self of all selves, you know. So that's spiritual selfishness, to recognize that the deepest layer of myself is grounded from Krishna. If I connect to him, that's the truest meaning of yoga. So connecting to him, then that also serves my interest. Everything will be fulfilled. Actually, in the same text, Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is definition of Shraddha. Now, Shraddha is usually translated as faith. But how does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explain faith as you are fully convinced that all you need to do is surrender to Krishna. All of your desires and needs will be fulfilled if you fulfill that one, need. The ultimate need is to get connected to the Supreme. So you do that, everything else gets taken care of. And Shraddha means to have full faith in that. Because sometimes it might look like, maybe I really need to, discuss with somebody else who is taking care of my things. So it doesn't mean that devotee then becomes like totally dysfunctional. I'm just praying to Krishna and not going to work and not going to. waiting. Krishna will carry the groceries to my door. That's not really the idea. One is fulfilling one's duties in the society, but all the time in the background there is the idea, yeah, but I'm not doing it not because it all depends on me, but this is my way of serving Krishna, you know. So it is, you are correct. It is another form of selfishness, but this is a non-problematic form of, we really want to have more that kind of selfishness. When you want to be selfish by just fully surrendering to Krishna. So that's okay. Yeah.
Because I'm a person.
Yeah.
My real self-interest is to serve Krishna.
Yeah, correct.
I just try to understand the mood, and so if I'm unhappy, and I think I want to become happy, like real happiness, real Ananda, and I want to serve on Krishna that I become happy. This is not the devotional service.
Yeah, so everyone heard about mindfulness, yeah? Mindfulness, be present, or just observe what is going on, okay? Now, we can apply the concept of mindfulness to also to Bhakti in a way, because if I'm doing Bhakti motivated by, I'm doing this because I want to enjoy the bliss that will come. You are not fully present then. You are in the future, you know, right? So more advanced is to be fully present. I'm just doing it because it's right here, right now. Don't think of any, just give my 100% to the task at hand. Yeah. So that's Manas doing his trick. It's like navigating to the future instead of being in the present. That's what it does for everyone. So, we can capture the mind. Oh, now you are again in the future. In the what will I get out of this? Just be present and focus on what you are doing right now, and bring it back like that. It's a practice, lifelong practice. Yeah.
This point I understand, but there's still a beginning intention. Why are starting? So is the intention to please Krishna, or is it that I get something of it?
So sankalpa is the intention. That's a Sanskrit word. So sankalpa is real. It arises out of our necessity. You know, we cannot really pretend to be on the level of Sukadeva Goswami because we are not. Somebody, oh, I'm only doing this out of pure love. I mean, that's wonderful. We need to keep that as a goal, but at the same time, there's something as which we could call a daily necessity arising from life as it manifests today. Maybe you need to have a conversation with somebody and it's a difficult person, or maybe you have some challenging task ahead. You are not quite sure how will I manage that, and then there arises this feeling of helplessness, and then with that you can feeling return to Krishna. And there's no problem doing that. So Srila Prabhupada is actually saying how to approach Krishna through his holy names. One should chant the names of Krishna just as a child is genuinely crying for its mother. So the same thing, this mood of helplessness, that's a genuine feeling of the soul actually. I'm feeling, oh yeah, I'm helpless because I'm so small. But I have the most wonderful and powerful, Lord, who can accomplish anything. So let me connect to him, and then in that spirit try to do whatever I need to do. So that's valid. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
Thank you so much for your lecture. One point you were mentioning is this verse of Bhagavad Gita, that we should try to fix our mind always on Krishna and then also the intelligence, and then it goes down and down like Krishna is explaining. And the second step is actually to engage ourselves always in the process of bhakti.
Right.
So sometimes people want to do, but they're actually not so nicely situated in this platform. Actually, they're one lower, for example. So how to find out that we're actually practice the right level in that sense?
Oh, the question is that how do you find where you actually are, instead of practicing as if you are on a platform but actually you are not? Yeah, I mean that's a I would call a €1 billion question. That's fundamentally important because all the stages that are listed actually, it's not that there's platform 1 and then you suddenly, it's a continuum. So even within one platform there are like subcategories. Yeah, if I know, I suppose I would be rich because then I could open an office and here's consultation and pay me. Yeah. And anyway, it's like jokes aside. I think one important component is inspiration. It has Latin roots, in and spirit. So when spirit is coming into you, then you are inspired. So why is somebody inspired? Where did it come from? We could say it comes from Swabhava and past conditioning, but if we are talking about spiritual life, it really doesn't. It's the opposite of past conditioning. It's if you are inspired in your spiritual life, that's because you are deriving inspiration from within the heart by being somehow in connection with Krishna in the way that is suitable for you. So one way of figuring out if I'm in the right platform is that there's a combination of inspiration. Most of the time you feel inspired, but it's not that you are not challenging yourself either. So it's a golden mean between both. So I would say, look at this, if you are only like comfortable and feeling slightly bored, that probably means you should try to take another step higher. But if most of the time you feel it's all a struggle and it's too much, if that's kind of what you feel most days, then I would say whatever it is, there's something that you are overdoing. Could be a case that maybe you are doing too much of the lower platform. Maybe I'm, washing the dishes 18 hours a day. I don't have time to chant japa. A step up would not be like, might be to do less of that and more of the higher platform practice. So I would say everyone should be allowed to explore and then be sensitive to what is the answer I'm deriving from within. Personal experience is important. Nobody else can see your personal experience. You can see it. You can directly access that. But then going all the way, it's me and my personal experience. I don't care about others. That's kind of going too far to the other extreme. But the other one is like doing the need. If you're part of a spiritual society, then there are social needs. People want you to be in a certain kind of way. People want you to do a certain amount of socially acceptable forms of seva, like that. So going too far on that extreme, one ends up sacrificing one's own inner spiritual necessity. And then going too far to the other extreme, me and my personal spirituality, I don't care about the rest of the world, I don't care about other practitioners. Then one goes to a spiritual ego trip, Somewhere combine both, and fortunately it's possible to also ask for consultation from advanced practitioners and teachers and like that. I would say the combination of these three, not to promote any one of them as a standalone criteria, because it's a society, easily the individual's needs, nobody else understands your inner experience. Then if it's only me, then it easily turns to spiritual selfishness, but not in the a good way in this case. It's kind of going on the ego trip, me and my needs, and let everyone, the rest of the world go to hell. But also now I'm going to say something slightly controversial. Even if you ask consultation from an advanced practitioner, even teacher, I think it's healthy to present your case in the sense, not in the sense that whatever you tell me, I will do it, whatever it is, but these are my needs, I really feel I should do that, and this is what the other people are saying, what is your perspective based on your experience? Having a real conversation is sometimes a good thing. I realize and understand and appreciate the value of full surrender. I will just do whatever you say. Like that spirit is wonderful. I'm trying to keep it up somehow in my life. But actually, what is really going on is usually like having a real conversation with various parties, and then by like that, if you sincerely desire to find out, I really don't understand why Krishna would not be willing to reveal it to you. But sometimes Krishna acts through his agents. So instead of revealing it directly from within the heart, maybe he wants to see that you are willing to apply the principles of devotional service, the most important of which it is actually to take shelter of the other devotees. But taking shelter of the devotees, there are 6 loving interactions between devotees, and one of them is to revealing one's heart confidentially. Our confidence needs to be there. But if you are really revealing your heart, then that means you are making yourself vulnerable, but you are also bringing your own situation into the table. It's not that you are like, I'm surrendering and not telling anything about how I actually feel. We should actually, that's really important, to recognize this is how I feel on a daily basis. There are 7 days in a week, and 6 out of the 7 I'm not really inspired. I feel overwhelmed, I'm tired most of the time, I'm falling asleep when I should be awake on the Bhagavatam class. Well, I'm inspired on Sundays on prasadam, you know. So then that's a sign that, hey, I need to modify something. But how to go about it, then feel free to explore. What happens if I try for, let's say, 2 months to you know, emphasize one thing above everything else? I will make it a point every day. I will spend 1 hour reading Bhagavatam, giving it my best quality time. What will happen? Let me do a 4-week experiment. Maybe my whole life will get transformed. Maybe I suddenly start deriving so many answers that I don't need to ask that question anymore. Or the other experiment, hey, what if I now make it a point for 4 weeks, I will pay attention to japa, really the holy names of Krishna, the most merciful appearance form of the Lord, all time, all places considered. There's nothing more merciful than the holy name of the Lord. What if I really give my best shot of really paying attention every day for 1 hour or 1.5 hours or 2 hours? Let me see what happens. This could also be one way of finding out. Like, anyway, these are some ideas that come to my mind. I think this is the most important question for anyone who has already started on this path of systematic practice and figuring out how to adjust these things and what's my level right now. It's going to change, that's for sure. Whatever recipe worked 3 years ago will not work now. But that's a good thing, because it will shake us up. Otherwise become like Bhakti zombies. Yeah, just walking with the same, you know, program day in, day out, becoming like robots. We are supposed to be loving persons, not robots. So sometimes circumstances shake us up and we encounter our limitations, and hey, why is not blissful right now? Maybe something's wrong. That's meant to shake us up and seek and find another solution. And it's progress. So sometimes one needs to downgrade also. Let's be real. If year after year I notice I'm chanting 16 rounds but only paying attention to 3 of them, I mean, I would say that's clearly a sign that that's too much. So if you can't focus on 16 rounds, then better you focus on a less number of rounds but pay attention. Anyway, so somebody's soon going to call police. So better end. So, yeah, anything else? Anyone else? Questions?
Except me, you mean?
Huh?
Except me.
He has questions.
You have questions? Yeah, okay, shoot.
So, there's the saying that complete humility is not different than Krishna prema. So,
Where exactly?
than Jayananda, I guess.
Yeah?
That like,
Can you show the verse?
I have to look it up, but I was hearing it in some lectures like last week, that like complete Krishna prema, love of God, that is
It's not different from complete humility.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my question is, how can we find out that where I lack humility, and we don't even know where do we lack the humility, that we are not humble, and so how we can really become more humble, or let us, Krishna should bring us more and more closer to him. So
Yeah. So that reminds me from Bhagavatam, I think it's in the 11th canto, like the ultimate practice for Ashtanga yogis, those who are practicing lonely meditation. Do you know what is recommended for them actually? Like once they achieve samadhi, fix their mind on the wonderful, beautiful form of Vishnu with 4 arms. The suggestion is that now, whenever they encounter another living being, let's say an ant, they should throw themselves down on the ground, paying full dandavats, appreciating the presence of God in the heart of that tiny little ant. Okay, I realize you go to the center of Zurich and start doing that to everyone you meet. I mean, you won't get far because that's for sure. But it's different if you are living alone in the wilderness, and every now and then, maybe once in an hour, once every 2 hours, you encounter an animal or somebody, and then you throw yourself down and pay full respects. But I think the spirit of that instruction is quite wonderful. So, because opportunities for practicing humility arise, and if that's the fundamentally important practice in Bhakti, then you have actually a chance to practice that every time you meet another person. So I'm not suggesting, because it becomes really impractical if you actually start just paying dandavats all the time. But there's another way, like, what is the need of this person? How can I serve this person? And then based on where that person is, sometimes the way of respectfully rendering service to the other person is to leave that person alone, because that person may not want my association right now. But that's not always the case, fortunately. And kind of keeping that kind of mini contemplation going on, like, how can I be of service? Asking that question will, then, I mean, we make mistakes, but mistakes are learning experiences. You can try out to approach others in the spirit of service, and then based on the interactions and the experiences, we get actual information. Did I do the right thing? Because, let's say, not so long ago, I was trying to render service to some friends of mine by telling a stupid joke. And then I realized later on they didn't get the joke. They got kind of upset. So I realized, okay, I made a mistake, so now I need to apologize. But now, instead of telling a joke, now I'm apologizing. But in both cases, in the spirit of, but let me be of some service. So anyway.
Thank you. Should I look up this about humility and?
Yeah, I would really love to read the actual original. It's not a doubt, because it makes perfect sense. Like, true humility is to understand I'm small, and to understand one's smallness is easy if you are encountering something who is infinitely wonderful and great. So that goes well hand in hand with the idea of pure bhakti, but still it would be nice to read that. So if you find it, let me know. Okay, and here, thank you. Grantara Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
His Grace Jayananda Prabhu ki jai. investierst kein
Nicht
Sitz.
komplett, sondern
Ja, also dass du nicht herabglaubst, da bist du dazu. Ja, aber unschuldig, oder? Aber dass du dich nicht mal bemühst nach irgendwas in der
es ist eine Art Agnostiker, der sagt, nein.
Ja, aber die. Oder wenn wir nochmal ein bisschen durch die Welt laufen, warum sind die Leute auch so unglücklich, weil sie undankbar sind? Aber warum sind sie undankbar, weil sie nicht gottesbewusst sind? Oder? Die Stau, die Sushi, die Luftvermarktung, die Eiswohnung, alles, nur ein gesunder Körper, nur schon wegen dem kann man so eine Ekstase sein. So, wer gibt uns das alles? Oder müssen wir eigentlich alles verdienen? Nach dem Schildthema in der Volksschule hat alles gemacht. Natürlich kommst du mit zum Verständnis, manchmal ist man sehr gut, aber alles ist vollkommen Fehler oder wenn du zurück bist, dann bist du völlig undankbar.
Geheimen Plan gehabt und die ganz Menschheit angekriegt. Zwar Sachen in der Form, wo die Form sehr einfach teilt. Aber es ja, so gekannt.
Die Woche habe ich Lecture gehört von Anras oder den Podcast mit Sandy Fischer. Der hat den Punkt gemacht, dass der Vortrag gesagt hat, dass es mega wichtig ist, wenn wir Verschaden vertragen, dass wir auch sagen, was Verschaden ist. Weil sonst machen sie, er hat mir gesagt, sie machen davor Gaben so viel, aber nur wenn sie auch wissen, dass es für dich ist oder für Gott, dann macht es Bhakti nicht so.
Ja, ja, das ist so.
Dass man
Aber
auch das immer bewusst macht, das ist
das
jetzt.
hat Bhakti der Bundeswami gesagt, Food for Death.
Wenn nicht ein aktiv sein. Dann reden wir.
Ah, Jay Baker,
Ja.
man hat es gesagt, er hat gesagt, eben die Food for Life Programm, wo halt gesagt haben, so Schule verbinden, also das ist noch, ich habe keine Ahnung, was das ist.
Du musst auch nach Hause gehen, das ist
Du musst, das ist, wenn man wirklich will, dass die Leute umgehen. Aber dann, ich weiß nicht, ob es da auch noch eine Masse gibt. Ich meine, wenn du jetzt etwas sagst, aber das ist Christ. Das ist Psalm. Ich meine, das Wort kann ich nicht.
ja, es ist
Das heißt ja,
aber
das
das
ist
Bewusstseinsfrage, wenn sie unbedingt verstecken oder wie.
Ja, wenn die Person gestorben ist, dann hat das akzeptiert. Das ist eigentlich die Idee.
Dann verstehen wir da noch, ja, verstehen wir da noch, dass Krishna vergessen hat, sind wir uns dem bewusst, oder? Wenn es nicht vollkommen bewusst wird, weil wir schon nicht so viel reden, weil wir schauen, dass wir vollkommen dazu arbeiten, darüber meditieren. Meistens, wenn ich Verschaden arbeite, auch über nach YouTube laufen oder irgendwelche Videos. Ich hoffe, es sind Krishna-bewusste Videos, aber ja. Aber ja, dass man es nicht versteckt.
Aber dann macht man das, wenn es eben, wenn du large scale Prasadam verteilst.
Zum Beispiel, also.
Eben, wenn du halt willst, viel Prasadam verteilen, zum Beispiel eben so in Schulen oder wie machst du, dass du das denen mitteilst?
Dass du irgendwo ein Schild hast, aber sofort sagst, so, hey, das ist. Ja. Dann. Ja. Aber Papa hat auch eben gesagt, es muss ja
Aber weißt du,
Hand in
Muslims-
Hand gehen mit
Muslims
Schenken.
essen kein Prasad, wenn du das sagst.
Ja, dann sind es halt für immer für.
Krishna Prema Rupa war schon mal in so einem Interfaith-Programm gesehen und dann hat er gesagt, so, jetzt war jeder nach seinem eigenen Stil kann das Opfer sagen. Also, wie sie das auch machen. gesagt, wenn jemand zum Tempel kommt und ein paar Fassaden kriegt, dann ist es verschwendet. Zeitverschwendung.
Ja, wenn er für ihn vielleicht, aber für die ganze Schulklasse, oder?
Ja. Die anderen das?
Ja.
இவருக்கு தலைவராக அந்த திலகல் அப்படி வந்தது அவருக்கு நல்ல எல்லா அம்சம் அவர்கிட்ட பயன்படுத்துறது நித்யானந்தருக்கு ஒரு சொட்டு கண் மூடிட்டு அந்த தலைப்பாடு அம்மா அதான் ராமதாஸ் என்ன இவருடையும்
Box secadas, making house, masala e everything again. So beautiful. Ele que parece